Help me hit 7,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and leave your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. Thank you. My name is Aiden Clark, and I used to believe my marriage could survive anything, even silence. But I learned that silence can be louder than shouting, and indifference can feel sharper than betrayal. None of this happened overnight, though looking back now, maybe the signs were always there, hidden in the small ways we stopped reaching for each other. My wife, Elara, was never dramatic. She was warm, thoughtful, the type of woman who'd apologize to a chair if she bumped into it. We'd been married 8 years, and while those years weren't perfect, they were honest, or so I believed. But 3 weeks ago, she sat across from me at the kitchen table, fingers curled tightly around a mug she wasn't drinking from, and said the sentence that cracked something inside me. I think I need a break, just a week, to breathe. She didn't cry. She didn't tremble. She said it like she'd been practicing it in the mirror. The worst part? A tiny part of me understood. We'd been distant. Long work hours, crossed signals, tired apologies. But a break? That was something teenagers asked for when they didn't know how to break up properly. Still, I asked, why a week? I just need space, Aiden. To think. To figure out what I want. You don't deny space to someone who says they're drowning. So I agreed. I told myself it was just time apart. 7 days. We'd talk things out afterward. We always had before. What I didn't know was that she wasn't drowning. She was drifting. And not alone. The first 3 days were quiet. Too quiet. I worked, ate, slept, repeated. I didn't text her except once, just to ask if she was okay. She responded with a short, "I'm fine. I'll see you Sunday." No heart, no warmth, nothing like her usual messages. On day 4, I went for a walk because the house felt hollow, like someone had removed all the color from it. I ended up at a small bakery near the river, the kind of place with mismatched chairs and cheerful chalkboard menus. That's where I met her, though at the time I didn't know who she really was. She bumped into me while carrying 2 coffees. "Oh, sorry. I swear I'm usually more coordinated." She laughed, brushing a strand of auburn hair behind her ear. Her smile was quick and bright. "You okay? You look like someone just told you birthdays were canceled." I managed a small smile. "Rough week, that's all." "I'm Marlo," she said, offering a hand. "If it helps, I'm having a terrible week too." We sat at a table because misery loves company, or maybe because talking to a stranger felt easier than sitting alone with my thoughts. She told me she was married. She said her husband had been acting off, distant, secretive. She said she felt like she was losing him inch by inch. I didn't tell her anything about Elara. I didn't want to spill my pain on someone else's table. But before we left, Marlo looked at me and said something that stuck with me. "People don't need space unless they're torn between staying and leaving. I hope yours chooses you." I hope so too. Day 5 felt heavier. I woke up to silence again, but this time the silence felt suspicious. I checked Elara's social media, nothing new. No stories, no posts, no hints of where she was staying. I reminded myself that a break was her idea, not a punishment. She owed me space, not updates. But somewhere deep down, something cold settled in my chest. On day 6, things changed. At 10 p.m., my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "We need to talk. It's about your wife." First, I thought it was a scam. But then the second message came. "This is Quinn. I'm Marlo's husband." My stomach dropped. I hadn't even known his name. We agreed to meet the next morning, day 7, the day Elara was supposed to come home. I barely slept. Every awful possibility crawled through my head. When dawn finally came, I drove to the cafe where Quinn suggested we meet. He was already there. Early 30s, sharp features, dark circles under eyes that looked like they hadn't seen rest in weeks. He didn't shake my hand. He just slid his phone across the table. "Is this your wife?" he asked. It was Elara, laughing, leaning across a dimly lit bar. With him. And just like that, everything inside me went still. "They've been meeting for months," Quinn said quietly. I didn't want to believe it, until Marlo and I compared timelines. Marlo, the bakery, the spilled coffee, her broken smile. She had been living the same nightmare. And now, on day 7, the day my wife promised she'd come home, I knew exactly who she'd been spending her space with. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I just said, "Meet me at my house. Tonight. Both of you." Quinn nodded. And that's where everything truly began. By the time evening arrived, my house didn't feel like mine anymore. Every picture frame on the wall looked suspicious. Every memory suddenly tainted. I cleaned the kitchen twice without realizing it. I rearranged the living room furniture. I stood by the window, sat down, stood again. My mind wouldn't settle, but my heartbeat was strangely steady, like clarity had taken over the place where panic should have been. At 7:42 p.m., the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Quinn standing there with the same stiff posture he had at the cafe. He wasn't a big guy, but he carried himself like someone who'd broken and rebuilt himself more than once. Behind him was someone I hadn't expected, Marlo. She gave me a small, sympathetic nod. "Quinn told me, I didn't want you facing this alone." I stepped aside silently and let them in. At exactly 8:03 p.m., we heard a car pull into the driveway. I don't know what I expected to feel. Anger, heartbreak, betrayal. But when Alara stepped inside, looking tired and startled to see people in our living room, all I felt was a quiet resignation. The kind that happens when you finally see something clearly that was blurry for too long. She froze when she saw Quinn. Then Marlo. Then me. "Aiden, what is this?" I gestured toward the couch. "Sit. We're talking tonight." She didn't move at first, but then she walked slowly to the armchair across from us. Her hands were shaking. Maybe guilt, maybe fear, maybe both. Quinn spoke first, his voice flat. "Alara, we know about you and—" He stopped himself, jaw tightening. "Your friend." Her eyes darted toward the floor. I waited. She didn't deny it. She didn't even pretend to be confused. And that silence said more than any words could have. I leaned back, studying her. "A 1-week break. That's what you called it." She pressed her lips together. "Aiden, I didn't know how to tell you. I thought if I had time." "You had months," I said. My voice wasn't raised, but she flinched anyway. "Time wasn't the problem." Marlo's voice was soft but steady. "You were with him this week, weren't you?" The way Alara's eyes glistened, guilt, caught under a microscope, was enough to answer the question. She whispered, "I'm sorry." Quinn scoffed bitterly. "You're not sorry. You're caught." I expected tears from her, a meltdown, some kind of dramatic justification. But what I got instead was a quiet, almost defeated confession. "I didn't fall out of love with you, Aiden. I just drifted. And he made me feel seen again." I stared at her. "You could have said that to me. I didn't want to hurt you." "You did anyway." The room fell silent. Not the heavy, suffocating silence from earlier in the week, but a different kind. An ending silence. Marlo leaned forward, her voice painfully vulnerable. "Did you ever think about us? Your spouses? Your homes?" Alara looked up at her, eyes red. "I never meant for it to go this far. But you let it," Marlo said, her voice trembling with a mix of sorrow and steel. "You let it go far enough to break 2 marriages." That's when something inside me finally snapped. Not in anger, but in clarity. I spoke slowly. "Alara, I didn't call you here to scream or fight. I called you here because I needed to see the truth in your eyes. I needed to hear you say something real." She swallowed hard. "And what do you want to do now?" "I'm choosing self-respect," I said. "Whatever we had died the moment you decided someone else made you feel more alive than your own husband." Her face crumpled. "Aiden, please." "No," I said gently. "You already took your break. I'm taking mine now. Except mine is permanent." Marlo exhaled shakily, tears gathering in her lashes. Quinn looked away, jaw locked. Alara wiped her face, voice cracking. "So, you're done." "I'm done trying to convince someone to stay." The words surprised me with how true they felt. She stood up, grabbing her coat with trembling hands. "I never wanted it to end like this." "Things rarely end the way we want," I replied. They end the way they're meant to when people stop choosing each other. She lingered at the door, eyes searching mine for any softness. All she found was distance. When she finally stepped outside, she didn't look back. The door closed with a softness that felt louder than a slam. For a moment, none of us moved. Then Marlo whispered, "I'm sorry you had to hear it like that." I shook my head. Truth hurts, but lies rot. Quinn let out a long breath. What now? I didn't know. Not really. But for the first time all week, I felt strangely steady. Now, we rebuild. Separately, maybe, but honestly. Marlo gave a small smile, the kind born from pain but shaped by strength. Maybe one day we'll look back and see this as the day we got our lives back. Maybe, I said quietly. The night ended with a simple exchange. 3 people standing in the aftermath of choices they didn't make but had to live with. And when the house finally emptied, I sat alone on the couch, staring at the quiet walls. It didn't feel hollow anymore. Felt like a blank page. And for the first time in a long time, I was ready to start writing a new chapter, without her, but with myself firmly in the center of it.